Hi everybody. So I'm Gabriel. I'm Brazilian, live in New Zealand. Have been working for field service for so long. Working field service for so long since maybe 2009. It's a pleasure for me to be in here and talk and share and also learn from the other speakers as well. Thank you for the organizers to put everything together. It's quite nice to see a lot of people here. And thank you for having me here too. It's a pleasure. Right, just a little bit about me. I'm a lead consultant at Tita. He is my contact for my social media. If you wanna later drop me a message or need any help with field service, I'm basically do a lot of field service, so I'm very happy to help you all. And a little bit of my background. So I started doing field service on version 4, and people say, how come we didn't have field service at the time? So it was CRM version 4, and we did implement field service on the top of the customer service or case entity at the time. And we built a portal for SharePoint with SharePoint for the technicians to be able to fix the product. So was mainly we have done everything, we developed everything when we didn't have the field service. It has changed quite a lot. Field service is very powerful today. There are a lot of configurations there that we can fit, so we can fit the field service across many industries. It's quite nice to see there. They have pretty similar process when they're talking about field service, but everybody has the challenge to change a little process, and the configuration always can do that. Right. The agenda for today. I'd like to talk a little bit about how to join up the sales team with the delivery team. So how the communication between the people who are facing the customer the first time, our salespeople, and the people delivering there, and how this communication between them and the collaboration is so important to have a success implementation of field service. I'll be talking about the opportunity types, what's driven the work, and then how we do collaboration. We're going to leave a good time for Q&A at the end, and I'm happy to take any questions. You guys can drop the questions and hear where I'm talking. We can read the question later. I can go back to my presentation, I can jump on CRM, field service, I would say, and then I can help you. Right. Customer experience is the topic that everybody wants to have at the moment, to have a good customer experience, to keep the customer happy. We really need to have our customer on board with our process. And normally the customer see us as an organization, not as a multiple team working separately in different areas, right? So they don't want to see sales and then they want to see the delivery team very disconnected. The salespeople, what they do, they are engaging with customers. They're going to keep the customer relationship very strong, and they're going to finding and proposing solution with with the portfolio we are offering. So they're looking at our portfolio, what we have done for the customers, and they're going to look at the new customers, the existing customers, going to be offering to that. So that's what the people they are doing. That's their main responsibility. While the delivery team, they'll be looking at delivering all the workload on schedule. They want to make sure they can do a quality work and can deliver the work to them. They're also responsible for keeping the productivity quite high. They want to have the productivity, the team, they want to be very efficient, they can do quicker, and they always improve the quality. As well as be proactive. They want to be proactive and they want to find the issues, they want to fix the issues and notify the customer before the customer notice that or any of the services in the customer get impacted. So how do we going to keep the communication effective between everybody and the company? Right, here's my whiteboard, and let's start how they are. What's the main areas, right? What we see in here. Salespeople gonna work in their opportunities. That's what they do every day. Probably the first screen they'll see there is opportunity. Delivery team, they have all the work to do. They have all the work orders. When I say delivery team, we have a scheduler, we have field service administrator, we have the technicians, and have a bunch of other people working there. And they'll be looking at what they have to do, planning what they have to do, if they have capacity to do that. And they'll be there doing that every day. how we get, but salespeople are so important because they are the one bringing the work for the delivery team. So they're the one every day facing the customer and proposing what we do the best and then bringing the work to them. So how do we connect those guys to those guys inside here? Right. First thing we're going to see is the opportunity type. Once a company is selling service, the company will sell, I would say, we'll call two types of service. Let's think in the business scenario there, a company is selling fire compliance, a company on the fire compliance industry. So they need to go there and inspect all the buildings or the office or the warehouse to see if they have all the fire compliance. This fire compliance is very important for the customers to get the insurance, important for the customers to get safe if any issue has happened, they will mitigate the risk. Once they're selling there, we're going to sell two things. We're going to sell, first one here, going to be a small quick and fix, an installation of a little device, maybe even for a residential a house you want to install. We're talking about IoT today. You want to install IoT, or you want to install a smoke detector, a smoke alarm, or you're going to be having a long-term maintenance. Those are agreements. We're going to be supporting the business for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And we wanted to have the business compliance all the way. So we're going to be working for long. What is the difference between those two types? The first one is probably a small life cycle. It's something the customer quickly engage, or an existing customer ask to do one thing, and we're gonna quickly do and finish. The second one, we're probably talking about new commercial buildings. We're talking about massive sites, and then we have so many rooms and devices and things to do on the site. So that would take a lot of time. We're gonna have a lot of interactions between the sales process until we can get the deal. Right. Here, how we connect the work order, right? The first one is pretty simple. We come from a customer wants to do something, we deliver there. And how we start the communication with the delivery team now. Before, once they ask us to install something, say this, we need to ask the delivery team, do we actually do it? Can we actually do it? Do we know this product? Do we have this product in stock? Now we know supply chain is a problem. We might not have the problem, the product. So we should ask all the shortage on the labor. We need to ask, do we have capacity to do that? So they're starting the communication between those two teams. When you go for the second one, you have agreements, and you need to build those agreements. Those agreements will require a lot of the technical expertise, because we need to inspection the site, we need to understand what the customer wants, we need to understand the requirements of the customer. So we need to go in and have an idea of how many devices you're going to be inspecting, how many devices you're going to be installing, how many devices you're going to be maintaining. So that one, maybe the salesperson can't do. So we need to have a help of the delivery team to ask them to, as well as capacity. Do we have capacity? Maybe it's a lot. Do we have capacity to do that? How can we split the work? We're going to be maintaining the sites. We need to be maintaining the sites we need to go there once a month, once a year, regularly, installing the first maybe one full month installing. So we need to understand what the requirements and build there. And there we will also drive the price, the cost, the margin, all the important things for the salespeople as well. Right. Once we finish the sales process, the delivery team gonna be working those work orders, and they are the one inside the customer on the site. They are the one they would probably get to know the customer better than the salespeople, because they are working there every day. Working there every day, they can understand where are the new defects, the issues we have that wasn't part of the scope, or they can find new opportunities, think we can do, because they know they have done other customers they have installing there, and they say now we actually can do for this customer as well. So from the result, from the completion of each job we've been doing for the customer, they can generate those two items. And those two items, actually, they become opportunity again. So it comes back to the cycle of sales, because new opportunities, new defects comes all back to that. So all the way from the technician into the sales, they always need to be talking. They always need to be collaborating between themselves because they work in the same customer. So once the customer calls the technician, calls the sale, they need to be talking the same language. So that gives a nice customer experience. The collaboration. So I put the collaboration here. That's the collaboration between the two teams, and it has to be something easy for them to do. How is the collaboration? The collaboration is the communication. The collaboration is between the work, what you're going to be doing, capacity, all this stuff. Right. Now, if we think about what field service Microsoft has to offer on here, we're going to be having in Dynamics, you're going to be having the Sales app. Sales app has now AI. There is a lot of investment in there. And the Sales app helping the salespeople to be collecting more information, to put forecasting and other things. We have the field service app, which helps the delivery there. We have the planning. They have a schedule board. We can do resource planning. We can do a lot of stuff with that. So this will be the field service. And I like the collaboration. Now we have Microsoft has added the collaboration teams to the Power Platform, which can put those things together. And I think that works very well. We probably will be talking about SharePoint as well. All the documents that has to find one location so that everything here keeps all connected. All right, let me just go, that's my story, and I'll go to field service and gonna show how field service will manage them. Don't know if there is a delay. Can you just confirm you can see my web browser? As you can. An opportunity, my opportunities. Right. from let's just start talking about from the two types of opportunities we have. So here is no field service. Here is the sales hub. And inside the sales hub, we're going to be looking at two types of opportunities. The first one, the simple, quick one, will be one-off maybe job. We're going to get a request from the customer for maybe an installation. We're going to send the technician over there. We're going to complete the work and we're done. The second one going to be the long-term maintenance that we're going to have an agreement. Right. If I open the first opportunity, so I have done that earlier. So this opportunity, the customer wants us to do a residential installation of IoT. So there's IoT in here. How we do the IoT? They have a budget of $1,500, and then for the $1,500, we can do a quote and we can create a work order. So the salesperson going to contact the customer, going to talk about requirements, going to put the products together. Here the product, labor, IoT device, and inspection fee, installation inspection fee, and they're going to put all together, give a price. We can do a quote, and the next step would be to convert this opportunity to a work order. But before we move to this step, we need to know if we can deliver there and when can we deliver there. And the salesperson wouldn't know that without asking a delivery manager. So here we go. We have now the collaboration in here with Microsoft Teams. We can easily come and chat with the sales team in here. We can ask, can we deliver there? We can put all the information here. We can ask and chat, and the info and the communication stay here. What I like there, because even though we own the opportunity and we move to the work order, we can carry on this chat to the work order, and the communication and the scope of work always still together. So here the delivery manager can open the opportunity, can say, but what do you mean with that? What's the product they're asking? Or can we ask more information? So all this communication going to be done on this chat, and then this chat can keep carry on. Once we know we can do that, we can easily click and convert the opportunity to a work order. Right. Maybe things that the salesperson normally will just stop in here, but things we need to know. First, the salesperson has agreed with the customer when we can do it. So they had asked the delivery manager and we'll know. So it's very important to come in the setting in here and put the time from promise, time to promise. They can drive KPIs, for example. They can have SLAs, and we'll help the scheduler to know when is the job has to be done. So we can put in here next week. Maybe now the salesperson can stop in here. But the salesperson would like to know, we gave a time frame to the customer, and the salesperson would like to know when when it's completed, or if we couldn't complete in the time frame we gave to the customer. So this escalation has to communicate to the salesperson. So how can we do that? We could, there is ways of doing that with Flow at the moment. So I will link them manually. We could link with Flow. So once the work order is created and is related to the opportunity, we could refresh that. We could have a flow on the creation of the work order to connect the same chat we had with the opportunity back to the work order. Why is good? Because we can bring this conversation in both records, and we also could do the flow to add the technician later on to the same chat. So the technician would have the same visibility of the conversation we had. Other things we could add in here as well between this conversation. Here we go. Let's chat. I have a flow in the background that's connecting there. So things we could have on here as well. When we have a KPI, we have a failure, we have an escalation in this work order, we could use the same chat to notify the salesperson and say that had happened. Can you notify the customer? We could put adaptive card in here and say, it had happened. Do you want me to email the customer for you? Or should we schedule a meeting between our team? And we collect everybody, the resources and the salespeople and everybody in here. With Flow, we could create a activity appointment now, and this appointment could have a link to the teams, which even better because the salesperson now, if they're using AI accelerator, the sales accelerator, they would collect the conversation in there and would suggest follow up, so wouldn't get lost or what's the next steps. So teams collaboration between there is allowing all the two ends to be working together and keep the communication, the conversation, the context of this project, this work order together. So I find this very interesting. Right, that's the first work order. The second work order, the second type of opportunity we're going to be working now is the project, which will probably take a bit longer sales life cycle for that. So we need more collaboration there. We're going to probably need a lot of more collaboration, interaction with the customer. I have create early in here. So we have a 2 years maintenance agreement. So how the agreement get, so how do we start this opportunity first? So the salesperson will find out this opportunity. So this customer will find out that we have an opportunity with this customer. And once we start chatting to the customer, we start getting to more information. So that will be slowly. The customer is likely to have multiple competitors working in there because it's a big project, it's a long-term plane maintenance. So they're likely to have multiple competitors to work in here. So customer going to have an indication of what's the budget as well. So first thing we have to do in here is to identify what are the service locations, what are the sites, how long we're going to be covering there. And they're going to give us the salesperson, the sales team going to give an indication of how much, because we know that that's our business. We provide those services for all the customers, so we know how much we need to cover the site for this period of time. So from field service, I'm gonna slowly showing all the steps in here. So here we just identify and we're going to add the site. So we're going to need the customer, we're going to also need the service location. The estimate value in here is an estimate from the salesperson. He's going to say that's how much. How we could automate that and do a bit better as well. We can have flows and the background in here to collect the sales team from these, collect who are the sales team from this opportunity. We could create a chat and we can link the chat back to the opportunity. So that's how we start with the collaboration here. Once the opportunity start getting more and more developed, we understand what the customer requirements and what the customer needs are. We're probably gonna make starting a quote, a draft. We're not proposing to the customer, but we get into the detail that we actually need to have a more accurate pricing cost there. So here's a quote I have done earlier. So on the quote, the quote gonna be gonna bring over what are the service baselines that we have. The service baselines we have are the same service baseline we put on the opportunity. But now we don't want to have an estimate. We want to actually have the real cost and we want to have the real margin. So once we are selling service, the margin is likely to be the most important thing we're going to have, because now we're talking about labor shortage on the market. So we need to have people there. So the margin is the most important. They're what drive our business. So how do we get accurate estimates and cost for the quote? So if I open my first site in here, inside the site, and here where is the delivery team has to have to help on us. They have to help with the capacity and how do we do this type of work. Because here it gets deep to say we need to have the installation of the IoT device first. That's the first thing in the project. We need to have the monthly inspection. We need to have the quarterly inspection, yearly inspection, and we need to do this other type of work. For example, change the batteries. We need to change the batteries for preventive maintenance every 6 months. So here you're gonna have, I call that we're gonna be work orders. And for each of those work orders, we're going to be adding products. So we can have products and service. So we can how much labor we think we're going to spend in here and how many products we're going to be, our consumables we're going to be adding here. So we are doing an installation of IoT device to the site. So we're going to be monitoring by IoT, but we need to have probably there's 8 hours. So 8 hours of our labor in here. And that brings you the actually cost you have in your business, and you're going to be putting your margin. So there are a few fields that are hidden normally in the form. So I put in here just to show you. So we have more details in here. There's the breakdown. And the most important for field service to calculate all there will be the recurrency in here. So here we need to understand it's going to be once a month. It's going to be from the day one of the agreement or the last day. Going to be one off. So we need to understand how frequent it's there and then how many labor and consumables we're going to be adding to there. Just a few tips in here that I normally like to do. That helps quite a lot the delivery team to do the planning, to do the workload. So if we select to generate bookings, we probably don't know the preferred resource in here. We could create a generic user to sit in some team, because the delivery team also might be breakdown in other teams, right? So the delivery team might be the guys who are the electricians, the plumbers, the drivers, the truck drivers. So we might have many resources, and they might be seeing different teams with different skills. So once we have those work orders in here we're creating, we are probably going to be splitting by skills who are going to deliver them. And if you want to deliver those, if you want to create those work orders up front, let's say my business like to do planning in advance, 4 months in advance, 3 months in advance. We're going to choose in here. So those work orders are going to be created in advance, and we want to assign to a resource. So this resource, we don't know who is there because the person can be on holiday. We can't do planning here. So there's a high level planning, and this high level planning we assign to a resource, a generic resource on that team. Later, the delivery team, you can look at the schedule board, can delete and reassign. So it's easier to do that. Let me just go back. So, and here we're gonna have for each site here, we're gonna have an installation, a monthly inspection, and you're gonna have every single work order and the frequency of the work order. So they're gonna comes down back to my quote, and then my quote gonna have accurate cost and gonna have accurate margin. So probably the sales manager are more interesting and look at the margin and say, that's what I want. That is low, that is high. So to get to this point was all collaboration between sales and the delivery team and all the planning. On the completion of this quote, this field service is going to generate 2 agreements here. So 1 agreement per line and going to be generate all the work orders. So can be maybe I put there 4 months, going to be 120 days in advance. So the delivery team can easily do that. We also can have invoices in here. So we need to have a way to get paid for the work. So we're going to be also creating the invoices in here. It's the same way we create invoice for agreements, but once we are doing the upfront with our customers, we're doing it during the sales process, we can come in here and we can say how often going to be the invoice. Maybe we're going to choose once a month, going to be from my day 1 of my agreement. And I always want to invoice the customer. And then we can add the products. Just select the product. Maybe I have something fit. If I have a price list for that, I would bring the amount as well. The only sales in here. I could change the quantity and it would give me the invoice. No 100, 163, probably going to be higher. Right. At the end of that, we can complete the quote. We can send the quote to the customer. That's going to be our proposal, as well with our other competitors as well. And then we're going to be waiting to win this opportunity, this quote in here. Once we win this quote, we just need to think about the delivery. How do we do how we finish there and then we do the handover to the other team? It's very unlikely we're going to document everything, right? On the communication of the conversation with the customer, we're probably not going to be handing over all the documentation. So it's much easier if we have a place they can come and see the history, what we discussed in there. So again, we come to the chat to being relating here. This chat was connected to my opportunity and my flow was bringing to my quote as well. And then I have a flow in here, which probably is not bringing the adaptive card, but I have a flow in here to notify there's a new quote is activated for this opportunity. So the same chat we've been dealing with on the opportunity. Now we're dealing on the quote and we have flows in the background to say, hey, there is another quote in here. Hey, there is another approval to do. Hey, we have the approval waiting for 3 months and then why we can't do that. So we need somebody from the delivery team, a technical person to go on site to do inspection. When can we have that? So all the communication goes in here. Let's say we win this and that becomes, once we win this quote, Just create an order. Gonna win a quote and we're gonna have an agreement. Right, I probably set the booking, the agent and come. So if you fix that, they will create an agreement for you. Just need to revise my quote. Quote lines, probably have changed that one. Inside the quote line, I have my booking. So I was showing you earlier. Inside the booking, I had click and there. So that was my mistake. So it was a validation the field service was doing to prevent that we create an agreement with missing information. So again, we can activate. The activation of this quote gonna trigger my flow again, and then my flow gonna send another notification to the chat to say, hey, there is another quote active in here. Can you please review? Maybe you could trigger a approval process as well. Once I finish that, I can create the order. And the creation of the order gonna bring all the agreements to the place. Right, so if we open up in here, we can see there is already an agreement. Just probably click on the wrong spot. Service account, agreements are here. Right, here we are. So that's the agreement as well. And what I would do in here as well, I would probably automate a flow on the creation of the agreement if the agreement's linked to a opportunity or to a quote. So we can see through here, there was our quote. As well, we're gonna link the app with my flow. I'll just link the app, the chat conversation. And why I keep saying the chat conversation, because once we open there again, somebody in the future, just starting the company, this agreement's there for a year, and there is another year to go. The person needs to understand what was the deal at the time. What have you been negotiating to the customer? What are the conversation? And that will be probably easy to go through the chat, right? And then within the chat, I would go further and automate with flow. Let's just go in here. So we can do with flow as well using other, here's my adaptive card I was talking earlier. And also would do with flow as well. I probably would, the flow, make sure the flow connects the chat to back to Dynamics. Why I'm saying that, so many people wouldn't just open Dynamics every day and check the quotes. But if we have the collaboration going on all the time, they're always in Teams. Everybody has a phone today, a mobile app, and the connection to the Teams, and they can see that. So we open up in here, we say, we call field service or instance, and we say, let's put here my opportunity, right? We could even do that with flow. We don't need to do them manually. Nobody has to do them manually. We can do it flow, and I think that's the best way to do it. As well as on the chat in here. So we always been saying we have documents and documents and the company is everywhere. We don't know where to put documents and don't know how to carry on documents, and everybody has their own folders. We have opportunities and then have a quote folder, end up having the work orders folder later, and once we need to put all together, we can't find it. So a very nice way to do that is to link this file folder here back to SharePoint, and then link the SharePoint as well to the opportunity, to the quote, and maybe to the further work orders, because we can change there using the document location, we can point that to the right SharePoint. So I think it's a good way to point everybody to the same folder location. So keep centralizing there. As good as the communication, the collaboration, the documents are so important as well. So before we wrap up the agreement in here, there is so many questions on the agreements when we sell agreements to a customer, and we're going to be talking about warranty, right? What is the warranty? We had just installed in here IoTs for this customer, and your customer will say you need to maintain the IoT for the first year. That's part of the warranty. Or the customer might say, I'll pay you more, but you maintain for 2 years because that's the IoT is important. How do we achieve this warranty? We have entitlements. So the entitlements can be for customer. There is a lot of way to do entitlements. They can be even apply entitlements with flow, or we can have a generic entitlement for the whole customer. So the entitlements I gave in here 100% products and service. Some companies will say, I'm gonna give you on the labor, but you need to pay the product, the consumables. We can also filter those service in here for entitlements applications. So let's say I'm going to be covering one of your sites only. The other sites are too far away. Maybe you need to pay me some fee. So I have another entitlement for that site, and then I'm going to only do half with you, 50% discount. So they're all part of the commercial agreement we have, and then the entitlements can resolve that. That's another thing. It's good to collaborate as well. Link up, put the chat in there, because once it comes down to the delivery team, we don't know what is part of the warranty or not. So it has to be very clear the way we do the warranty. A few of the configurations I normally do for once we're having a sales process as connected to field service. So normally I don't have the salespeople using the field service app. They are going to be using Sales Hub. And the reason for that is they have more benefits over there than they would have with field service. They are not field service technicians, they are salespeople. So you can have a sales professional, it's cheaper license. They have a full field service, they have a sales accelerator, they have forecasting, they have the goals, they have everything there. Once we install field service in the same instance, there is one there is another, where adds the second type of opportunity. So let me just show you where that works. Right. So the other type in here was mainly, there was initially talking the conversation. We had an item base, was the quick one, just get done things, was that one. Service maintenance is the long term, as will be the agreement. And the other one here, I didn't talk about that today, will be about PSA. So project service will be once we're selling a project and we're going to be doing the project in project service. So this environment has everything installed, so we can see all the options. Doing that is very important thing is there is a difference in the forms as well. Field service there are JavaScripts, so there are logics in here. So once we are selling a service maintenance base, we should use field service. Once we use selling an item base, we should be using opportunity. So they even going to give a message in here. How do I sort it out there with some customers? I have JavaScript. Once the customer choose at the beginning of the Once the customer chooses in the beginning of the creation of the opportunity, say, what are you trying to sell? And here is an item based or service maintenance based. The JavaScript going to switch the form for the salesperson. So the salesperson doesn't need to be switching the form. Going to be very confusing. So we can switch the form to the salesperson based on the choice of the type. Back to the configurations in here. I had a lot of problems with time zone. I'm in New Zealand, so time zone is very different than here. Projects in Australia, they have multiple time zones as well, so it's very confusing. And this problem with time zones happens on the once the agreements is creating invoice or the agreements creating work orders. So the creation of invoice and work orders always happen in the UTC time zone. And then once we're trying to say, I want a work order on Monday, because we are ahead in here, we're not getting work orders on Sunday. Or worse, we have invoices on Sunday. Invoice wouldn't be a problem, but you say I want to invoice on the first of the month and the invoice come the month before, on the last day of the last month. So that creates a problem here. There are a few of the settings in here. Worked with Microsoft, few tickets, and those invoices we can easily, this field is not available on the form, so you have to enable that, and you can easily come in here and change those settings. I don't think Microsoft has in the documentation. I think they are working on that. Maybe it might not be an issue in the future. They might be able to work on the system time zone, but at this stage it is. And I can share those configurations later. So if anybody had issues with the time zone, just ping me. I will share the configuration. What's the settings for the agreements as well? And here, and why you choose one or the other. So I put all the fields to show the form, so it gets easier for me to explain. The way we generate bookings dates in advance. So what are the booking dates? And here we have a table. So every time you create your booking dates or you create your invoice, there is a related record with that, which creates all in the here in the case 12 months in advance. There is a record to say when to create the next work order, or when to create all the work orders, I would say, or when to create all the invoices. So they don't create work orders and they don't create invoices. They're just a schedule to be done. And this schedule is changed every time you go there and change the booking recurrency. So if you say in the agreement, now I don't want to invoice every month, I want to invoice every 2 months. So all those records going to be deleted and the field service is going to create another record. So it's easy for you to say when it's going to happen, and it's very easy to identify. Those records as well is pretty good to, if you want to add an invoice. So you say, I'm happy with the schedule, but because of COVID in here, I wouldn't invoice the customer this month because we haven't done the work because the technicians couldn't go there. So you can go there and delete the one record. So it's pretty easy to do that. Once those records are generated for the planning, so I'll call field service planning, the way they will create the invoice and work orders. We're going to have that configuration over here. One stands for work orders, one for the invoices. Why would I create work orders 180 days in advance? Why would I do that? That's more aligned with your business. Once your business wants to do planning and they want to know how much work they're going to be doing. Some business will say, I do that 3 months ahead. Some business going to say a year, very unlikely. They can do the planning for a year. They don't know how many resources they're going to have in a year as well. So you should choose there, align with your business. You don't need to put all the work orders in the world there, which just creates so much work and the system, and for things that we don't even know is going to happen. The agreement can be cancelled, so it makes no sense. So you talk to understand the requirements of the customer and say, how do you do your planning? And then you put in there. Once you go to the invoice in here, the invoice is more, why are we going to create invoices in advance? So forecasting revenue. So you're gonna might have a Power BI, you might have a ERP integration here, and you wanna do a forecasting of what's the revenue to come. So that's very good as well. Here is an UTC date as well. So if you're doing that, do the calculation. So that is when the record is going to create for you. So when you want the work orders to be generated, when you want the agreements, invoice, and to be generated. So for me, I put in here that stands for 1:15 in the afternoon for me. That's UTC, so you just put in there. Normally I put overnight, so once the users come, that everything's plain. So the scheduler can see the new working coming, not during the day, but overnight, so they don't need to just be working there. There's all the two ones in here. Once you change that, there is a web resource gonna do that. They're gonna do the internal work for field service. and here is when it was the last time they had happened. So today I was running, so they ran for me at that time. Field configuration here as well. The pre and post booking, once we're doing an agreement, so we need to say when the booking has to happen. So we need to help the scheduler to find out what's the time window they can do. It's not like in the first of the month, we happen the first of the month. We can be saying you can do 3 months prior, or you can do 3 months, you can do a gap. You can say you can do that week. So this configuration we set over there, and there will be. And what's the difference for the start and the end and the promise in here? The promise is more a commitment to the customer. We've been saying it's not flexible, has to happen in the time frame in here. And once the other one is more like an indication on when it has to happen. So once we configure the agreement, we're going to be choosing to populate those fields in the work order, or we'll be choosing to populate those fields. I normally keep that one here, and then we have not much flexibility. We want the delivery team to be working the time window here. I'll be talking about other settings in here, and I'll give you guys a time to question anything, and I can jump in this instance of field service and I can work. Resource pay type, it's important if you are calculating, if you're using time entries, is on the time entries, you can say, for example, if overtime normally is different, right? So when business holidays as well. So we're going to be saying, I pay my technicians, I pay 100%. I pay the break 100%, the travel time 100%. But if they're overtime, or we'll pay 150, and if they're working on the public holiday, I will be paying $200. So here you configure that. And we expect, I wouldn't have time to talk today about time entry generations and then geofencing and all the stuff the technicians could do. But if the technicians following the booking status and doing that in real time, and we can help the technician with notifications on the mobile app and say, hey, you arriving on site, put in progress, please, you leaving on site. So the geofence can notify the technician, and then we can ask the technician what we can do for them. You say, you get in the site now, you put the work order in progress. You get out the site, you move the work order to on break, or you complete the work order. And that will generate the time entry more accurate, and they will give, for the business, going to give a proper costing. For the technician, going to give a hand for them. For the end of the week, he's going to see his time entry there, going to be pretty much accurate, and he just needs to submit. So that probably for the employees, they need to do the 40 hours a week, and for the contractors, maybe it's how they get paid. So for them, it's also a benefit to do that once they see how beneficial for them to keep the booking status accurate, how beneficial for them at the end of the week to submit the time entry. So I think it's a win-win. Well, we have other things in here as well. I think a lot of people know that travel charge. Here's if you want to do a travel charge. So some customers on the who knows the mobile app, you have how many kilometers. Normally those kilometers or miles going to be pre-populated with, when we do the schedule board, we're going to say, here's how much kilometers you'll be traveling. And then those kilometers will be traveling, we can charge the customer, we can charge on the mileage, we can charge on the time, we can do a fixed fee. And once we complete the booking, field service is going to come in here, going to look what's the product in here. So as a list of my products. So probably normally I call something called travel fee. And the travel fee in here going to be added to the work order products with the amount we have there. 2 kilometers, we're charging $10 a kilometers, or we're being fixed fee, a flat fee, and then we're going to be charging $30 per customer. So that's depending how your business do. Just a good point on the invoice in here. Once we do the invoice, every time we post the work order, a new invoice is going to be created. Normally, field service is not the place to do tax and all this complex invoicing. So we're going to have integration with ERP, but we could copy the invoice generation to ERP, which can get confused once using agreement as well. So the agreement is going to also generate invoice. So it's important to put the entitlement in place. because every time you have an agreement, you want to have 100% discount of the products that come from the agreement, because you don't want to double charge the customer. So if that is part of the agreement, comes to the work order, there has to be 100% discount. So now we know the actual cost of from the sales as an estimate of costing. Once the work order is completed, that's the actual cost of the business. But we can't charge the customer again because the customer already paid for that, maybe pay upfront. So we need to have that, and some people will say I don't have invoice in the system, just say never. I think the invoice is quite important. It's important as well because if we do an installation of something and the scope of work was to do a simpler installation and get that the customer has requested to do something else, or in some business they say, can you put a pipe on your, install a pipe on the footpath, and then nobody went to inspect the footpath before, and they go there and find a big tree in the footpath, and they now, or they need to dig deeper, or they need to go around, they will require more time, they're going to require more a machine or require something else, and then there will be a variance on your project, on your work order, so we will need to look after that. So I quite like to live there on and then work integrating from there. I think I will stop in here my presentation, and I will leave that open for Q&A, so I give time for anybody that wants to ask any questions, or can read the chat in here. I'm happy to.
Thank you, Gabriel. It's great to see such an extensive demonstration of the field service capabilities with the larger life cycle process, which you've demonstrated very well. Thank you so much. You've really clearly demonstrated how you've achieved that there. So thank you so much for that. That you can clearly see that's going to be a common use case pattern for many organizations looking to deliver sustainable field service solutions. So thanks for that. Let's take a look in the chat to see if there's any questions in the chat. I can't see any questions in the chat right now. We've only got 5 minutes left for any questions. So Gabriel, my first request is for you to share your contact details in the chat, because you're such a leader in the field service community, a rock star for field service, recognized by Microsoft. I'd highly recommend you all to connect with Gabriel. He's doing lots of work in this field. So that's the first and foremost, whilst we wait for any other questions. Also, whilst we wait for that, just an important announcement is that the next session, so there will be another session on field services, but that will be after the next session. So there will be another session on field service, but that will be after the next session. So the next session will be on Unified Service Desk, and then it will be the session on Field Service Enterprise. So just as an announcement, reminder to everyone attending. Okay, so Gabriel, looks like there's no questions at the moment, but thank you for sharing your contact details. So everyone, please feel free to connect with Gabriel. Gabriel, I have to say, it's the first time I've obviously attended a session of yours. I have to say it's very well presented. So keep up the great work. I'm sure we'll see you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, field service has a lot to give to us, and yeah, maybe more sessions around all the things that we didn't explore today, because I will probably spend a whole day here talking about field service and what we could do with that. So yeah, thank you everybody for be here with me the whole time, and I'm very happy to answer any question afterwards if you send me your LinkedIn message, and I can just engage with you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. There is actually one question from Setu.
Right.
The question is, how would you generate a pro form invoice?
Yeah, I have done with other implementations. That the thing is, we wouldn't have tax in field service, because normally the taxing ERP system will do the proper taxing, right? We, charging different customers and customer type in every country will be probably very different, and we have different rules as well. Doing integration with ERP, and I'm doing a lot with Business Central. So inside Business Central, we probably could integrate those invoices to Business Central. And if the user in field service doesn't have a license in Business Central, we don't want to have a license in Business Central, we could generate the invoice in Business Central, add back to the SharePoint where I say before we have one repository for the documents and have the SharePoint. We have the SharePoint over there, and then the user can see inside the field service, inside the work order folders, maybe a work order invoice, and then would share the pro forma invoice. Hope they answer the question. Oh yeah, thank you. If anybody has any further question as well, I have 4 minutes and I could talk maybe how many people will be, probably many businesses, and the difference of then will be in the scheduling as well. People do very different scheduling. It's very common. And the challenge will be around how we schedule the work orders. It's
Thank you,
probably the
Gabriel.
most.
Thank you, Gabriel, for joining us at such a late time in New Zealand, the global community here for Dynamics 365. Lots of great feedback from Shrikant. Absolutely great session. Yasmin, great session. As well as Renata, great session. Thank you. Setu as well. So lots of great feedback. I personally enjoyed your session as well. So I hope to see you again very, very soon, Gabriel. And thank you once again for joining us all the way from New Zealand.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to chat and be here as well.
Fantastic. Finally got to meet Gabriel today.